internet friends, and welcome back to my series where we look for quality clothing within a brand. Today we are focusing on two brands actually. We are going to focus on Walmart and Old Navy. Now you might be thinking, Laura, you've already done these two. Do we really need a repeat? And here's the reason that I want to do a little bit of a repeat. One, when I did the Old Navy video, Zach Posen had just been announced as creative director. He hadn't really started to dive in just yet, and I'm curious to see what's happened with the brand. I think it's been about a full year now, and I want to see what he's been able to accomplish. And on top of that, I learned when I was doing the Walmart video that Maxwell is in charge of the free assembly line. He's the creative director for that. So we have two fashion history worthy designers heading up some of the most affordable fashion on the market. Now, a couple quick disclaimers before we dive into this, because I know this is a little bit out of my comfort zone as far as shopping and, looking at clothing through the lens that I typically do. Both of these brands are fast fashion. There's no denying that. But one of the biggest points that I always like to make on my channel is every single store, every single retailer has quality clothing available. It's just learning the ways that you can find and navigate these pieces, slowing down with your purchase decisions, and really being methodical about what it is that you're buying and why you're buying it. And also just learning the difference in quality standards. What could potentially be made better? Is it going to be a $10 price jump? Is it going to be a $20 price jump? Is this something that I'm going to wear and purchase hoping that it lasts me a lifetime? Sometimes being a little bit more methodical about those things can help with the longevity of your wardrobe. So without further ado, let's dive in. Let's see what Maxwell and Zach Posen have been up to. Let's first start with Zach Posen, Mr. Old Navy over here. Zach Posen was announced creative director and chief creative officer at Old Navy under Gap Inc. So he has quite a bit larger role than Maxwell does. He's got the whole company to worry about, but he's also overlooking the marketing, he's overlooking the design, everything. He's like all hands on deck kind of thing. Now, a little bit of a backstory on Zach Posen, if you're not familiar with him. He started his own label in 2001, and many of his gowns have also been worn on red carpet events. As you'll quickly note, both designers have very strong parallels in American fashion history. And it's worth noting, this is not Zach Posen's first role as creative director. He was the women's wear creative director at Brooks Brothers for 10 years. So even though it might have seemed a little off for him to go into this role, I actually think he has a really strong background when it comes to retail. In 2019, he did close his namesake label, and since then he has lent his creative eye for costuming on TV shows like The Feud and has appeared on Project Runway. Now let's dive into Maxwell. Maxwell, who also shares the same birthday as me, so we're very analytical Virgo minds, which I appreciate that. He got his start as a celebrity stylist, most notably during the rise of Lady Gaga. My favorite current part about Maxwell is his current namesake label. He started it in 2015 and it focuses on refined tailoring and timeless silhouettes. He has 2 CFDA awards, which is basically the Oscars of fashion, and started designing free assembly and scoop at Walmart in 2021. Also, if you want to learn any further about Maxwell, I would highly recommend the Cutting Room Floor podcast. Had him on it just recently and I listened to it and I laughed, I cried. Such a good episode. You'll fall in love with him. Highly recommend. Before we start our travels to Old Navy and Walmart, I do want to take a minute to thank the sponsor of today's video. That is Level 8 Suitcases. See what I did there with like travel and suitcase? Well done, Laura. Level 8 is a luggage company started in New York City. They pride themselves in innovation and design. Now, I am testing out the Voyager carry-on, and there were two things that really stood out to me about this suitcase. One, it has a dry-wet separation pocket. Now, since moving to Florida, cruise life is a thing around here. Sometimes traveling, wet bathing suit, it's a thing, it's nice to have that option available. And the wide trolley handle. I have honestly never seen this on a suitcase before. Normally the trolley handles are so thin, and I feel like that makes you lose control when you're walking around the airport. Like sometimes when you're maneuvering so quick, the whole suitcase just like flies to the side. And this gives you that like strength, that like grip strength to be able to control where the suitcase is going. And I was so excited. That was honestly the thing that stood out to me the most. I've never seen that on a suitcase before. It also has 360 spinner wheels that redefine motion, a super durable, lightweight shell, and very sleek and trendy color options. I will leave a link down below to Level 8 if you want to check out their luggage. I highly recommend. You can't say no to high quality, stylish luggage. So thanks again so much for sponsoring today's video, Level 8, and let's head out to Old Navy and Walmart. Now, straight out of the gate, I did notice everything in Old Navy is so much tamer and cleaner since the last time I was in there. Zach Posen has talked about how he wants to bring the 90s back to Old Navy, and the moment I walked in, I was like, oh, yep, he did it. He brought it back. Everything in there is straight up preppy polo life. Now, aside from the 90s influence that I noticed, I actually have to admit they have cleaned up the stitches tremendously from the last time I was in there. That was obviously like the first thing that I pointed out in just about every single video that I have filmed as far as fast fashion goes. And I do think going forward, we're gonna see a lot of these stores clean that up because so many people are talking about it. But that is only one piece of the pie when it comes to determining if a piece is good quality. And yes, stitching does matter, and it is nice to see a lot of these pieces cleaned up, a lot cleaner lines, but I think there's also some other things that we still need to think about when making these purchase decisions. The very first piece that I was looking at was the Oxford button down. I did like the bar tack stitching on the pockets. I think that is really well done. Good reinforcement there. I appreciate that. These are 100% cotton. We're not messing around with polyester, and I like to see that. I think there are some differences though in the quality of the fabric. You have a lot heavier weight on the button downs that I appreciate. I think are gonna last longer, but there are a few variations of it that are very thin in design. Comparing this to the red striped one, that was where I noticed the biggest difference in the quality of the fabric. I also think they're trying to go after the viral Uniqlo J.W. Anderson button down. And if you can find that in stock, that by and far is going to be better quality than what Old Navy is selling, and it's pretty comparable in price point. I know with Old Navy a lot of times it's that you can get these like deep discounts, but trust me, if you want a quality piece, the J.W. Anderson button down is 10 times better than what you can find at Old Navy. These we stay very far away from. I can already tell they are synthetic or synthetic blends, and sure enough, we got 53% cotton, 24% polyester, and 20% nylon, and 3% spandex. Don't do it. Just don't. It's not worth it. I think the piece that I was the most surprised about was the Harrington jacket that they had on display. This felt so promising. The zippers, for the price point, pretty good. I'm not gonna say great, because like, let's be real, these are pretty flimsy zippers. But again, price point, they're stepping up their game. I think Zach Posen is doing a really good job of at least elevating the look and feel of the items a little bit more. The quality of the fabric was pretty good, but where I was really surprised was the lining. They did a polyester cotton blend lining, and I think that made the jacket feel significantly softer on the inside. Of course, I'm always gonna vote for 100% cotton, but I don't think the cotton is strong enough on a jacket like this. It needs a little bit more structure with the lining, but it still gives it a richer feel on the inside, makes it feel a little bit less of that like plastic fast fashion feel. The one thing that made me go, no, this just still is not where it could be, is the imprints with the hangers. All of these jackets had significant imprints on them. And I mean, although that's common, like you have to be very careful with how you store pieces, but the fact that this was that bad of an imprint, and there's another jacket that is 10 times worse, we're gonna get into it, it just is a huge red flag to me that these are taking on that shape that quickly, and just how bad is the quality of the jacket. Harrington jackets have been around for ages. They come from the 1930s. Barracuda is the original brand of where the Harrington jackets came from, which is a brand that's actually still around today. So you can still get an OG Harrington jacket. The one downside to pieces like this, as far as fashion history goes, is obviously they're all menswear. Like these were all originally designed for classic menswear. So it is really nice to see this kind of universal boxy style that also caters to a female body type as well. If you want to go to the original source, Barracuda actually does have a cropped women's version of their jacket. It is, you know, on the pricier side. It's going to be quite a bit of a jump up, but if you are a big fan of fashion history, you want to go to the original source and you want to know where this came from, Barracuda is where it's at. Even though they almost won me over with that Harrington jacket, I really truly did like it. I like the crop fit of it, everything. I think it's a fantastic jacket. I just think the hanger imprints it talked me out of it. And those are the kind of things that you need to keep an eye out for when you're at the store, is like, what flaws can you find on multiple items? Take note of that And just remind yourself that like, if it's flawed like this right now, how many washes is it gonna take for it to completely start to fall apart? Next up were their 100% cotton cardigans. I was excited to see this too. I actually have very little notes on this. I think it's nice to see this style of cardigan. Of course, I'm always gonna recommend some other alternatives that I think are better quality. I do think if you saw my Quince video, I highly recommend their fisherman knits. I think for the price point, they are significantly better, sturdier cotton. If you watched my original Old Navy video, that was the biggest problem that I ran into, was I couldn't find anything that was 100% cotton. So to see this, that's a winner in my book. I am gonna say this is another jump up as far as quality goes. I noticed the slip on this was significantly better quality. The slip is actually a cotton slip, which is obviously gonna make this way more comfortable to wear. So again, I think that's another win in the right direction. Old Navy is clearly slipping into their fall time looks. We got the back to school crowd kind of coming in. You can tell that's kind of the vibe around here. And we have the barn jacket, the classic barn jacket. Now, I saw a video with Zach Posen where he was actually like designing these pieces and touching the fabric, and you can tell he like had his say on what type of fabric was being chosen. And I gotta say it's pretty good. It's pretty darn good. Did it pass the vibe check though? No, it did not. And here's why. Upon closer inspection, it looks like the waxing yet again, which I don't even know if this is waxed. I think it is. It feels like it is. There's no notes on the website, but what's making me think it's waxed is the hanger marks. There is like almost like a ghosting effect on it. Like there's an indentation. It's not, I tried to wipe it off. It's not coming off. And I think it's because it's the wax. Anytime you have barn jackets like this that have a wax on it, it helps with water repellency. It's actually a really good thing on the jacket, but over time you typically have to re-wax the jacket. Sometimes the wax can melt and make it look a certain way, but this, I think, mixed with the poor quality hangers, the plastic hangers, it's just damaging the jacket, and this is probably just not gonna get sold. It's not gonna be something that anybody's gonna waste their time with. To see that happen that quickly, the wax effect actually on a jacket like this is going to start to show wear points wherever you kind of like stress with it. So like if you move your arm like this a lot, it's actually gonna start to show crease marks on the jacket. A lot of people love that. I personally love that. It's just, you know, it's one of those things that like, it's age, it's wear marks. It shows that you've worn the jacket, which is a good thing, right? Like that's a good thing. But when hanger marks like that start to happen, it probably tells me that either the shipping process was done poorly or there's something in the manufacturing process that just didn't quite go right, that over time, this jacket just isn't gonna wear the way that it should be. But overall, the construction on this, I mean, there's notes to these pieces that feel like there's a little bit more intentionality when it comes to the design process, which again, I think is something that requires a good creative director. It requires that creative eye. This denim jacket has my heart. If it was a little bit better quality denim, I probably would have purchased it. It is a mystery to me. I can't find this anywhere on the website. So like, what is the story with this jacket? Where did it come from? What's it called? I was priced at $50. I loved the structure on it. This was another piece that felt like it was like straight out of the 40s or 50s. This jacket though was just thin enough for me to go, I don't think I should put this in my wardrobe. I had to try on the Oxford button down because I feel like this was the closest thing to the Uniqlo dupe. It just doesn't have the same vibes. The luster isn't there. Again, I'm gonna encourage you, if you want the real deal and you want something good quality, hold out for the JW Anderson collection. Again, this denim jacket, I don't know what the story is on it, but I love it. The button downs, be prepared. These fit very oversized. This was a size extra small. I kind of feel like everything is very unisex right now. And if you know me, you know my style, you know I dig that and I am very much here for it. But it was so interesting to see everything feel so different, even from like, I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 months ago of the try-ons that I did. Like this just feels like such a different store. And I'm here for it. I'm enjoying every minute of it. I also tried on their vintage tees. Now these have been around for a while. I know there's something that's a staple there, but to finally try it on, I was like, okay, I'm digging this as well. And you pair this with that jean jacket, it's all coming together. I'm gonna say things at Old Navy are feeling like a drastic improvement from what I saw the last time, and I'm excited to see that. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, but I think for the price point that you're looking at, there's still some hidden gems mixed noticed amongst the crowd. They have the like rugby striped polo shirts right now that I think are good quality, 100% cotton. I think he's definitely going in with intention right now. And another thing that I noticed about the website is it doesn't feel like they have a massive stock of clothing right now like they normally do. It feels very intentional and curated, and I think that's so interesting to see from a fast fashion standpoint. One thing that I really took note when I was kind of watching Old Navy on Instagram was seeing the fact that they are talking about archival items, and they do have an archival department, and they're using a lot of their older pieces to kind of replicate and bring back some of their 90s style, which I find that so interesting. And I'm excited to see that because that was where a lot of the quality pieces came from, was from the 90s. I'm curious your thoughts on Old Navy. I know this is probably jarring some people because it just doesn't feel like the same store right now, and I am actually really happy about that. Let's head out to Walmart next. We got some shopping to do. Let's see what Brandon Maxwell has been up to with his free assembly line. Now, Walmart still feels very much like summertime is going on, whereas Old Navy felt like they were really pushing out all of their fall time pieces. Now, the first thing that I wanted to do was take a look at Brandon Maxwell's website and see if there are any similarities in some of the designs that he's putting out, because obviously that's kind of the reason that I want to shop with these pieces. And the first piece that I took note of was this gingham dress. I'm kind of a gingham girl around here. It's my thing. Fun fact about gingham, when it is woven in 2 colors, it is called check. And when it is woven in 3 or more colors, it's called plaid. So we have a gingham check print dress that I'm here for. The reason I was so drawn to this piece automatically was because it reminded me of a couple pieces on his website and his current design. And it's 100% cotton, which was pretty much the case with all of his dresses. I also noticed some similarities with the jackets. We have crop denim jackets with very structured sleeves. This piece did feel significantly thinner and more warped than the ones that I was seeing at Old Navy, which is something that I always pay attention to. If it's warped now, it's gonna get even more warped when it goes into the washing machine. One thing that I noticed with the free assembly line and the scoop line is the buttons on everything is very similar to what Brandon Maxwell uses on his website. So all of the hardware pieces had a lot of character to it. I do think this comparison between Old Navy and free assembly feels a little silly now, reflecting back on it, because Old Navy felt so youthful and trend driven, and the free assembly and scoop line both feel a little bit more elevated and career wear, or maybe something that's like a little bit more fashion forward. So a couple of the pieces that I would stay away from, any of the cotton button downs didn't quite hold that shape for me. I actually felt like Old Navy had a couple pieces that were significantly better. Again though, I'm gonna say go to Uniqlo. As far as these pieces go, I mean, most of them are 100% cotton, which I appreciate seeing that. There is some mixtures and some pieces that I would say heavily hard pass on, like this button down right here. I really did not think that was worth your time. You have the warping on the structure. This would be a major pass for me. And I think as far as their denim goes, Old Navy will always be the winner when it comes to price point. I think their denim structure just doesn't quite hit home. It's significantly thinner than the denim that you can find at Old Navy. Plus, I think the selection of denim at Old Navy is way better. You know, trying on these pieces was fascinating to me, and I had the same exact problem the last time, but everything felt like if I was willing to get it tailored, it would be like masterpieces. Like you would be getting something that is close to a designer looking piece for far less. But it's the tailoring process that you have to go through if you really want these pieces to look as good as they possibly could. For instance, this dress I thought was beautiful. I think this is something that if you swap out the belt and give it a little bit more character, it is such a good dress. The structure on it was so good, but it needed some major tailoring in order for it to look good. But again, the hardware on it, beautiful. The design, the structure, this is a really well-made dress. And I think there's significant attention to details that you don't normally find in fast fashion pieces like this. Again, this 2-piece set, if it was tailored, I think this would be beautiful, but there's always something missing on the structure. But if you're willing to put in the time and effort, which I mean, this holds true across any brand, like nothing's gonna fit you perfectly. A lot of times you have to get these pieces tailored. But I do think as far as interesting design goes, the free assembly pieces are just man, they have that like elevated designer look to them. Whereas Old Navy right now, I feel like has a little bit more of a like vintage trendy style. I definitely think as far as style goes though, Brandon Maxwell does a really good job of infusing kind of that designer look to a lot of his pieces without sacrificing that quality and just making everything polyester, which I appreciate seeing that. Now, the one piece that I actually did decide to get was the gingham dress. This won me over. It was 100% cotton. I thought the structure on it was good. It had some bar tacking on the front neckline that is going to help with the structure. And the inside, the elastic is what won me over. One thing that I always notice in the fast fashion pieces is the elastic won't be finished. I think the number one stress point on a piece like this is going to be the hardware on the adjustable strap. That's where you might see some potential wear, but overall the fabric on it, it's just a classic plain weave. There's nothing spectacular to it, but it is a thicker, more substantial weave. This is such a good example of there are so many quality pieces out there on the market. It's just understanding what to look for and where to find them. You know, I always get the occasional comment that like, I shop here because that's what I can afford. And trust me, I completely understand that. I have talked about this so many times in the past, but you know, I thrift because of financial reasons. You know, these companies are gonna respond to how we're shopping. And I think the more people that learn kind of how to navigate the poor quality and, you know, some of the pieces that might last longer in their wardrobe, the better off we could potentially be. I'm not gonna lie, as far as quality basics go, Uniqlo is still winning, hands down. Like any of the pieces that I showed at Old Navy, you can find better quality at Uniqlo. So just gonna throw that out there. Obviously, Walmart and Old Navy though, I do understand as far as size inclusivity goes, they win hands down. I think right now, as far as affordable denim goes, Old Navy by and far wins as far as size inclusivity. I think as far as like style and dresses and things that feel a little bit more elevated and upscale and have the size inclusivity, Walmart's free assembly line is just, it is so good. The two pieces that really stood out to me at Old Navy were the vintage t-shirts and a few of their cotton button downs. And of course, their denim for the price point. I still think they're doing a good job. And the pieces at Walmart that really stood out to me were the dresses. Cotton dresses, you cannot go wrong. I have even personally thrifted some free assembly pieces and not realized that it was under Brandon Maxwell's creative direction. And it makes sense now because they're just, the structure on them is unmatched. That is it for today's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. These videos are always so fascinating to me. Ultimately, it's nice to see affordable fashion that has quality built into it because that's the most important part and that makes you feel good. You know, these pieces are not just like run-of-the-mill fast fashion pieces. There's intentionality built into it and I appreciate seeing that. Not everything is that way though. It's just training your eye to find the right pieces. If you are new around here and you enjoyed this video, I might have a couple extra videos for you right here and right here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.